For more on this story, we're joined now by Michael Bociurkiw. He's a global affairs analyst and former UNICEF spokesperson for the West Bank and Gaza, joining us today from Kyiv, Ukraine today. Thanks so much for taking the time and for giving us your insights on this, because given the fact that Canada, the U.S. and the U.K. and other Western nations have now frozen the funding meant for the UN's aid agency, talk about how significant this is for the people in the region and for those in Gaza right now dealing with such a huge humanitarian crisis.
Sure, good to be with you. Well, to give you an idea of the size and influence of UNRWA, I mean, almost 6 million Palestinians are eligible for assistance from UNRWA. This is not only in Gaza, but also in Jordan, Lebanon, and those who are in Syria. So huge amount of people that depend on it. And within Gaza itself, I know the Strip very well because UNICEF has big operations there. Is basically a municipality, a municipal government rather. They take care of many things, from hospitals, medical care, schooling, sanitation, that sort of thing. What if you wanted to ask me what I would have liked to have seen, I think the better path forward for Ottawa, for example, would have been to wait for the investigation, which has been promised by the UN to take its course, and then decide what to do with the funding, because again, the Palestinians are so dependent on UNRWA services, it really cuts them off at the legs. And that action by Ottawa, coupled with its very incomprehensible statements on, for example, Israel and the ICJ ruling, it almost comes across as amateur hour at global affairs. So quite disappointing.
Now, you're saying they should have waited until after this investigation was complete. We already know that the contracts were terminated for those who are alleged to have been part of this. But talking about the impact there, you mentioned the millions who would be benefiting from this. And now the impact on the vital supplies that need to get into Gaza right now. What are the consequences if this funding is frozen for a really long period of time?
Yeah, well, usually what I know from working within the UN system, funding is, of course, budgeted way in advance. But the situation in Gaza is so dire at the moment. You hear reports of people who've been there talking about them on the brink, many people on the brink of starvation, that any pause whatsoever, either in funding or in the aid itself, will have catastrophic consequences. Catastrophic. We are already seeing a reduction in truck deliveries into Gaza because of protests on the Israeli side. And look, let me give you another example. I'm here in Ukraine, and the U.S. funding promised to, tens of billions of dollars. It doesn't look like it's going to come anytime soon. And the reaction here is so quick that by the beginning of February, they may not be able to pay teachers' salaries and pensions here. So that's how quickly these things can work their way through the system.
Let's just talk about how these allegations were handled in the first place. The UN is urging these nations to continue the funding despite these allegations. How do you think it was handled, and can they regain the trust of the international community after this?
Yeah, well, look, it's been for many years now that the UN has been under quite a bit of scrutiny, quite a bit of deserved criticism for not acting quickly enough on all sorts of allegations. For example, WHO, World Health Organization, has gone through a rough patch. UNICEF has as well. And another feeling in many places in the world, including right here, is that the UN just has not spoken out enough on what's going on in front of them. So there is a lot of politics involved. I think the Secretary General is under a lot of pressure right now to come clean and tell everyone what exactly happened. But look, let there be no doubt, these are shocking allegations that there could have been UNRWA employees involved in the attacks. They say they took swift action, but they're going to have to show a lot more before I think the faith of donors is restored.
And really quickly, Michael, I just want to ask you more on that. What more could they be doing to restore that trust? And can they prevent this from happening again?
Well, look, they have tens of thousands of employees, and it's very difficult. I know in our own organizations I've worked for, that it's difficult to weed out people or to monitor what they're doing. But these allegations are so serious that they have to do more, perhaps give more details of the investigation, maybe call in an independent investigator, an independent body, maybe a former UN Secretary General on that level, to get to the bottom of this.
Michael, thank you so much for your time. That's Global Affairs Analyst Michael Bociurkiw. Thanks so much.
Pleasure.